Something terrific and something terrible happened last night, and they all happened in the same worlds. It's game one of this second-round series. Going to pick this thing up early second quarter, and here, Jay Williams, here is Steph just doing his dance.
I mean, he gets going. But by the way, why isn't Anthony Edwards guarding Steph Curry?
He started hot. Steph had 13 early points, and then here comes the bad news. So you're going to see DiVincenzo with the miss. Now just watch Steph as he's bringing it up. Something not right. You could just see something's not right. He's grabbing it, he's wincing, he's moving around. Pay no attention to where the ball winds up. Just watch Steph. He's eventually going to ask out of the game, Jay Will, what do you see?
He still scores.
Yeah, he
still scores.
Yeah.
I mean, for a guy that has so many relocations and constant activity, the hamstring injury is a defining moment in this series.
He would leave, he would not return. He'll have an MRI today. We'll talk more about it later. Meanwhile, Draymond picking up the slack in his absence. He had 16 at the half. The Warriors are up 13 at the half. Third quarter, more of the same. Anthony Edwards, no, we're going the other way. Jay Will, how good a week is Buddy Hield having?
I mean, just an incredible series last series and knocking down shots after having a slow start.
That one gives the Warriors a 20-point lead. And then Jimmy Butler, someone tell me how this goes in. Throws up the prayer.
You're going to hear a whistle.
He's got 20 points for Butler on the night. Warriors by 16. Anthony Edwards, meanwhile, as you say, had a quiet night. We're early in the fourth. He's down 15 points. Here's one of the highlights from him. Again, did not have a ton of them. That one plus the foul. He would score 23.
0 for 9, though, right? To start the game, 0 for 10?
That's
one
right.
point in the first half.
And this would be the only three he would make. 1 of 5 from three-point range. Timberwolves get within 9. But anytime they had a question, the Warriors had an answer. Buddy Hield, bang. He would score 24. Warriors get the win. So an impressive performance in that second half without their superstar. Golden State up 1-0. But the story is Steph.
I talked to him at halftime. Just, he's obviously crushed, but, the guys picked him up and played a great game. And obviously we're all, concerned about Steph, but it's part of the game. You just, guys get hurt and you move on. Our guys did a great job of moving on and getting a great win.
He was a little deflated, but he didn't. He did try not to show it. He was just in the locker room, waiting on guys to come in, continuing to show that support, saying what he saw going on in the game, but it was a tough one.
Okay, so and Monica McNutt jumps in with us from Boston, and Jay Will is here. And Michael, I'll start with you. Like you and I, we went to the same journalism school. I write down the words people used: crushed, concerned, tough one. We'll get an MRI today, but they sound like they think this is not going to be good.
Their demeanor, when you see Draymond like that after a win, when I saw it, my mind went immediately, those of us of a certain age, you guys aren't there yet, to Magic Johnson having to pull up with a hamstring injury.
Yep, in the finals in 89. Yes, and 80 when they got swept by Detroit, yes.
And he pulls up and he puts his hand there, and they're going for a three-peat, the Lakers are. Magic, that's the whole Pat Riley coined it, and three-peat, and he couldn't go. And you're thinking, no, this postseason has gotten off to such an incredible start, and the Warriors could be the best story of all of it, the way they lose game 6, win game 7. Steph starts this game off like he's going to have one of those 40-point nights on the road. It's just, you can revel in it. And then when he pulls up like that, man. So, Jay, my mind immediately went to, okay, if he can miss games 2, 3, and even 4, if he can get back, that would give him like a week. Or am I just being ridiculous?
Well, there's a scheduling quirk. Let me point that before
they got an extra day.
There's a scheduling quirk in this because there's a WNBA game scheduled for the Warriors Arena a week from Friday. They're going to play now every other day, but then when they get to next Wednesday, they'll be off through Sunday. Game 5 of this series is next Wednesday. Game 6 is not until Sunday, and that's the one you have your eye on.
So if it's a grade 1, Mike, that's 1 to 2 weeks, and we'll see when we get the results back from the MRI. Grade 2 is anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks, which is not good. But I would keep my eye on Game 6. I think that gives him 2 weeks to do constant therapy, nonstop, 24/7 around the block. And then this way, look, for a guy that really masters strategic cardio warfare, that is who Steph Curry is. He averages 2.5 to 3 miles per game in which he runs. All the off-ball movement, cardio activity, transition activity, the backdoor cutting, that's all your hamstring. You need to give him rest. If you can get one game. I mean, by the way, this is why you got Jimmy Butler. I've seen Jimmy Butler carry teams with less talent on them. Get one. If you get it to 3-2, that Minnesota has the lead into Game 6, that's the game you want Steph to come back in.
Monica, that really, I guess, becomes the question, and I will repeat for those of you just joining us, there will be an MRI today, so we don't know exactly what the situation is with Steph. But if he does miss several games in this series, can the Warriors still win? Monica.
Well, I think you got to ask the Minnesota Timberwolves that question in many ways, because it's going to be on them to capitalize on his absence. Jay is absolutely right. We have all seen Jimmy Butler take teams to the promised land or as close as he could possibly get them in his own strength. But it really is going to depend on how the Wolves want to show up. Are they going to take advantage of Steph not being on the floor, or will they, which I thought they did last night, have a lack of focus and not be able to put their best foot forward? Can they? Yes. But if we're honest, should they, based on who the Timberwolves have been to this point in the last series and now into this one? I do not expect that. But again, I think this falls right at the feet of Anthony Edwards.
Well, Monica, you're not the only one who feels that way. His own coach feels that way. Let me show you. Anthony Edwards, he may have finished with 23, but he struggled mightily early. He had just 1 point in the first half. He was 0 of 8 from the floor, and his coach called him out after the game.
It starts with Anthony. You know, I thought he struggled early, and then you could just kind of see the light go out a little bit for a while. You're the leader of the team, and you got to come out and set the tone.
Coach was saying that he relies on you to set the tone from the start, and he didn't quite see that. Do you feel like you were off at all just in that department, or just kind of the way that you started the game?
Nah. I feel like I played great defense. I just couldn't do nothing on offense, so.
All right, Mr. Wilbon, you've been around a long time. You've heard a lot of coaches say a lot of things. I'll admit, him going there that strongly surprised me a little. What'd you think?
Great. You going to answer a challenge?
Great.
He challenged him. And look, the truly great players in any sport, but particularly NBA where regular season, the perception is we discount it. They don't, but we do. The postseason, this is when you do that thing that makes you great. More than once. That's why we're talking about Steph Curry. That's why I'm depressed over Steph pulling up last night. Because the truly great players, the middle of April to the middle of June is when you do that. And we see Ant-Man do it sometime. And the Minnesota Timberwolves still have these, to Monica's point, they have these lapses. Like all year long, I kept thinking T-Wolves, and I still think the T-Wolves have the roster and the game and now the experience from last year and the wherewithal to challenge Oklahoma City if they can keep themselves together. But after last night, you begin to wonder. Now, I expect now Minnesota, like 2 or 3 games in a row, Jay Will, to your point. They could get up 3-1. The question is, can we get Steph back? And then let's see what happens when it's time for Anthony Edwards to be truly great late in a series. What happens with James Harden? As great as James Harden is,
Game 7.
Games 5, 6, and 7 for years.
This morning.
Yeah,
Years.
you're right.
Not gotten it done.
His whole career.
And so this Ant is at the beginning of it. He's done it sort of, kind of last year, breakthrough. But now, what?
I think it's defining moments. Look, I will say this. Everybody kept talking about, oh, Minnesota's going to be physical with this Warriors team. I'm like, you can't be physical with something that you can't catch. Smart. Right? Because they play on a perimeter with all their movement. It's a different type of mentality. Against the Lakers, you can be physical when everybody's watching Luka play hero basketball at the top of the key. But when you're playing defense with your mind, more so than your legs and your hands, that's going to question the maturity of Minnesota's defensive team and their personnel, because you have to go small.
Monica.
Well, I'm with you, Jay, because yes, it is far more a mental game to defend the Warriors. But I do think if the Wolves take a little bit of a page out of the Rockets' book, there was a combo of physicality and smarts that did have the Warriors off kilter just a little bit. But look, as much as we centerpiece Anthony Edwards in this one, you've got guys like Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, Mike Conley, who have postseason experience, right? And yes, Anthony Edwards is going to be the centerpiece, but this is one where your vets sort of got to rally around you, and then you look at a McDaniels and a Reed. All those guys have the physical skills, but this is a different level of test, and so they've got to be willing to step to the forefront and go to work and be who they say they are all season long.
Timberwolves shot 5 of 29 from 3 in this game last
Who won the
night.
Who won the rebounding margin?
The rebounding margin
Warriors.
heavily to the Warriors.
Which is unimaginable.
Right, and the Warriors got
51
18 offensive rebounds
Yeah.
as opposed to the Wolves 12.
That's
Now,
right.
With
having
all the
said all
size
that,
advantage.
Monica, go.
having said all that, Jay, there were moments in this game, especially in the third quarter and into the fourth, where it did look like Ant was trying to turn it on. And this, I think, is where it gets tricky because credit Buddy Hield. I mean, he shot the lights out of the ball, right, to keep them at bay. But if you just put 20% more focus in, right? 20% more focus in, what does that look like if you start the basketball game that way and keep playing?
Yeah, but Monica, why we shouldn't be having this conversation about Anthony Edwards starting anything.
Yeah.
Again, let's go to great players. Anthony Edwards is now at a level, we're not comparing him to, guys who are honorable mention. We're comparing Anthony Edwards legitimately to the two great players in the league, at least a recent vintage. So I don't want to hear that he's starting slow. No. Of course you can miss shots. I'm not talking about that. But his coach question, he's talking about fire. He's talking about coming out with rage. You're at home in game one against the four-time champion, UC Steph Curry, and you've asked for it. You want the smoke. No, apparently you don't, because you weren't ready for it. Now, will he respond in game two? Fine. But responding in game two is not what I expected him at this point.
So huge storylines abound. We haven't even gotten to one of the most remarkable comebacks in the history of the NBA postseason, but we will as we roll on. Jam-packed we are today on Get Up. Coming up, back to the breaking news from the NFL.
Dậy gấp đôi rồi. Bây giờ mình sẽ móc cái hàng tiếp theo. Móc hàng tiếp theo. Cứ lần lượt từng mũi một nhé. Mũi nữa này. Tiếp tục móc. Rồi bây giờ móc tiếp. Lần lượt cho đến hết. Bây giờ móc tiếp những mũi tiếp theo vào nhé. Đây, móc những mũi tiếp theo này. Mũi tiếp theo. Luân phiên từng mũi nhé. Tiếp tục móc. Đấy. Cứ luân phiên từng mũi này là được. Móc nối vào đây nhé. Gỡ thêm chút len đi. Đây, móc tiếp. Cái luân phiên từng mũi như vậy là được. Tiếp nha. Đấy, mình móc luân phiên từng mũi như này là được. Thêm một mũi nữa nhé. Tiếp tục mũi tiếp theo. Đây, móc tiếp xuống. Mũi nữa này. Mình cứ làm luân phiên từng mũi.